Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a world where the wind howls like a wolf, and the sea churns under a sky stitched with stars. Picture yourself on a Viking longship. The wooden planks creaking beneath your feet, salt spray stinging your face. You're not a warrior, not yet, just a stranger thrown into this brutal life, and trust me, you're probably not surviving this one. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and local time. I love knowing where you're drifting off from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The ship rocks violently, and you clutch the side, your stomach lurching as waves slam against the hull. You're surrounded by grizzled Vikings. Their beards braided, eyes sharp as the axes at their belts. They're shouting in a tongue that's half song, half growl, and you're supposed to help row. Your hands, soft from whatever modern life you left behind, blister against the rough oar. Each stroke feels like hauling a boulder, and the cold seeps into your bones. Despite the scratchy wool tunic they've tossed you, it smells like damp sheep and despair. Charming, right? This isn't a pleasure cruise. It's 9th century Scandinavia, and you're a thrall. The lowest rung in Viking society. Maybe you were captured in a raid or traded for a sack of grain. Either way, you're property now, and the work is relentless. The longship. A sleek beast carved with serpent heads is your prison. It's about 80 feet long, crammed with 30 men, supplies, and enough tension to spark a fire. You row for hours. The rhythm hypnotic but punishing. Your shoulders scream, and the guy next to you, Sven or something, snaps if you miss a beat. "Row, you lazy dog!" he barks, and moonlight. You'd love to snap back. But one look at his axe, and you decide silence is wiser. Historically, Viking longships were marvels of engineering, built for speed and stealth. Archaeologists have studied wrecks like the Gokstad ship, found in Norway, to understand their design: light, flexible, and able to navigate both open seas and shallow rivers. But for you, it's a floating nightmare. The sail, striped red and white, catches the wind, but when it falters, it's all on you and the oars. You're not just fighting the sea, you're fighting hunger. They toss you a chunk of hard bread and a sliver of dried fish. It's like chewing gravel, but you're too famished to care. There's a weird detail about Viking life that sticks with you. They used walrus penis bones as tool handles. Yup, you're gripping an oar that might have been shaped with one. Imagine explaining that at a modern hardware store. The Vikings didn't blink at this stuff. They were practical, using every bit of nature. You, though? You're just trying not to puke as the ship pitches again. The storm hits at dusk. Rain lashes your face, and the mast groans like it's alive. You're soaked, shivering, and tying ropes with fingers that barely work. The Vikings chant to Thor, their thunder god. And you're half convinced he's real and furious. Historians still debate whether these chants were religious or just morale boosters, but right now, you'd pray to anything to stay alive. One guy slips on the deck, nearly goes overboard, and the crew laughs. Tough crowd. You're not built for this. Your smartwatch would be useless here. No step counts, just survival. The Vikings, though, thrive in this chaos. They're not just strong, they're stubborn, raised on hardship. You're a tourist in their world, and the ticket price is your sanity. If you think your gym's hit class is tough, try keeping up with men who think a good day involves rowing till their hands bleed. As night falls, the storm eases, but the work doesn't. You're on watch, scanning the dark for enemy ships or rocks. The stars are sharp, the air bitter. You're exhausted, but sleep's a luxury you don't get. A Viking nudges you, offering a swig of mead from a horn. It's sour, burns your throat, but warms your chest. "Not bad, thrall," he grunts. High praise, apparently. You collapse against a barrel. The ship's sway lulling you. Tomorrow's another day of this, if you make it. For now you're alive, and that's enough. Or is it? Bet you're missing your cozy bed about now. Part 2. The longship finally docks, and you stumble onto shore, legs wobbly as a newborn foal. Dawn breaks over a Viking village, painting the fjord in shades of frost and fire. You're herded toward a longhouse, its turf roof sagging like a tired brow. Smoke curls from a hole in the top, and the air reeks of wet wood and something sour, probably last night's stew. You're still a thrall, and the day's work is just beginning. Your blistered hands throb from rowing, but there's no sick leave in 9th century Scandinavia. Better keep up, or you'll be the punchline at the next Viking feast. Inside the longhouse, it's dim and stifling. The fire in the center spits embers, and you cough as smoke stings your eyes. Benches line the walls, cluttered with furs, tools, and snoring Vikings. You're handed a broom made of twigs and told to sweep the dirt floor. Dirt. Floor. You almost laugh at the absurdity. But the woman barking orders, Ingrid maybe, has a glare that could curdle mead. You sweep, kicking up dust that settles in your hair. It's like cleaning a pigsty with a toothbrush. And you're pretty sure this is punishment for missing that rowing rhythm yesterday. Your next task is hauling water from a stream half a mile away. The wooden buckets are heavy, and the yoke across your shoulders digs into your skin. You trudge through mud, the cold biting your toes through flimsy leather shoes. A modern water bottle feels like a fever dream now. You spill half the water on the way back, and Ingrid's scowl says you'll be doing this again. Vikings valued water as much as gold. Their sagas mention feuds over wells. No wonder they're so grumpy. Mid-morning, you're set to milking goats. They're skittish, with horns that look personal. You fumble, getting a hoof to the shin for your trouble. The milk smells earthy, and you're tempted to sneak a sip, but a kid, some Viking brat, mocks you for being slow. City hands? He sneers. You'd love to dunk him in the stream, but you're too tired for revenge. Besides, you're starting to notice the rhythm of this place. Everyone works, from kids to elders. It's brutal but oddly fair. A quirky detail catches your eye. The Vikings use carved wooden spoons, some etched with tiny runes. They're not just tools, they're personal, like a favorite mug back home. You're not trusted with one yet. Thralls eat with their hands. You scoop gritty porridge from a communal pot, and it's bland as cardboard. Still, it's fuel, and you're burning calories faster than a spin class. The big historical event here is the village's role in Viking trade networks. Places like Birka, a hub in what's now Sweden, thrived by linking Scandinavia to distant lands. This village isn't Birka, but it's got the same vibe. Goods like amber and furs pile up for the next market. You're told to stack pelts, and the smell of tanned hides makes you gag. Each pelt is currency, and you're handling a fortune while being worth less than the mud on your boots. Historians still debate whether thralls could earn freedom or if most died in servitude. Some sagas hint at manumission, but right now, freedom feels as distant as Wi-Fi. You're watched constantly, your every move judged. Drop a bucket? You're lazy. Work too slow? You're useless. It's like the worst group project ever, except failure means a whip or worse. You pause to catch your breath, and a Viking woman tosses you a rag to wipe your face. Keep moving, she mutters. But there's a flicker of pity in her eyes. You're not sure if it's kindness or just annoyance. Either way, you're grateful for the pause. Remember that walrus bone tool from the ship? You spot one here shaping a plank? Vikings and their weird recycling. Bet they'd love a DIY YouTube channel. By noon, you're hauling firewood. The axe you're given is dull, and chopping is a workout from hell. Your arms shake, and a splinter lodges in your thumb. You're tempted to fake a feint, but these Vikings would probably just douse you with water and laugh. Speaking of, you're starting to smell like one of them: sweat, smoke, and desperation. Deodorant would be a game changer, but you're stuck with reality. As the sun climbs, the village hums with purpose. You're exhausted, but there's no clocking out. A Viking claps your shoulder, chuckling at your red face. Not dead yet, thrall? He says. You force a smile. Thinking of your cozy bed. Survival's your only win today, and it's a shaky one. Part 3. You're hunched over a workbench in the Viking village, the air thick with the scent of pine and iron. Your hands, still raw from yesterday's chores, grip a crude chisel that feels like it was forged by a toddler. The longhouse hums with activity, women spin wool, men sharpen blades, and you? You're tasked with crafting tools, a job that sounds simple but feels like defusing a bomb with mittens on. The guy overseeing you, Bjorn, has a beard like a bird's nest and patience thinner than the wooden slat you're carving. Faster, thrall, he grunts, tossing you a lump of iron. You'd rather be back on that stormy longship than face his scowl. The workbench is a chaos of splinters and half-finished projects. You're supposed to shape a wooden handle for an axe, then fit it to the iron head Bjorn's hammering nearby. The tools are primitive: chisels, awls, and a mallet that's basically a glorified rock. Your first attempt at carving is a disaster. The handle looks like a drunk beaver knotted. Bjorn snorts, muttering something about your hands being softer than a merchant's silk. You bite back a retort, remembering the whip hanging on the wall. Vikings don't do constructive feedback. Crafting was central to Viking life, and archaeological finds like the masterful chest, unearthed in Sweden, show their skill. It held saws, files, and drills, sophisticated for the time. But you're no master craftsman. You're whittling with a knife so dull it could barely cut butter. And the wood fights back, splintering under your clumsy strokes. Your fingers ache, and a stray cut leaves a bead of blood on your thumb. You wipe it on your tunic, which is already a canvas of dirt and sweat. Bet your dry cleaner would quit on the spot. A weird detail catches your eye. The Vikings decorate their tools with tiny carvings, knots, snakes, even crude faces. It's not just practical, it's personal, like signing your work. You try scratching a line into your handle, but it looks like a toddler's doodle. Bjorn laughs. A sound like gravel crunching. Stick to carrying water, he says. You force a grin, dreaming of a power drill and a YouTube tutorial. Your next job is heating iron in the forge. The bellows are heavy, and pumping them feels like wrestling a goat. Sparks fly, singeing your arm hair, and the heat makes your face feel like it's melting. You're supposed to soften the iron for Bjorn to shape, but you overdo it, and the metal glows too hot. He curses, dunking it in water with a hiss. You'll kill us all, thrall, he snaps. But there's a glint of amusement in his eye. Maybe you're not totally hopeless, or he's just desperate for entertainment. Historians still debate whether Viking craftsmen were specialized or if everyone dabbled in multiple trades. Evidence suggests smaller villages like this relied on jack-of-all-trades types. Which explains why you're doing everything from carving to smithing. You're terrible at it, though. Your axe handle finally takes shape, but it's wobbly, and the iron head doesn't sit right. Bjorn takes one look and tosses it into a pile of rejects. Try again, he says. You want to cry, but thralls don't get timeouts. The day drags on, and you're set to drilling holes in wooden planks for ship repairs. The hand drill is a nightmare, slow, unsteady, and prone to slipping. Your wrists scream, and a blister pops on your palm. You're starting to understand why Vikings were so grumpy. This life is a full-body punishment. Remember that walrus penis bone from the ship? You spot another one here, used as a mallet handle. You're tempted to ask Bjorn about it, but one look at his axe, and you decide to focus on drilling. By late afternoon, you're shaping a wooden peg. It's simple, but you're so tired. It feels like sculpting marble. A kid runs by, tossing a pebble that hits your shin. Work faster, city hands, he yells, echoing yesterday's taunt. You chase him, but your legs feel like lead. Instead, you mutter about inventing child labor laws. The Vikings around you chuckle, probably thinking you're delirious. As the sun dips, you're allowed a break. You collapse against a stack of planks, gulping water from a horn. It's lukewarm and tastes faintly of moss, but it's heaven. Bjorn nods, tossing you a scrap of smoked fish. Not the worst thrall, he says. High praise, but you're too exhausted to care. Your hands are a mess, your back aches, and you're pretty sure you smell like a forge fire. Modern life, with its power tools and coffee breaks, feels like a fairy tale. For now you're stuck, carving your way through another day. Part 4. You're trudging through a frost-crusted forest. The air's sharp enough to slice your lungs. The Viking village is a distant smudge behind you, and you're out here foraging. Sent to scrape together food in a wilderness that doesn't care if you live or die. Your boots, flimsy leather things, sink into mud, and every step feels like the ground's trying to steal them. A sack slung over your shoulder holds a few wilted roots, and you're clutching a stick to poke at anything that looks edible. The Viking who sent you, a wiry woman named Freya, warned you not to come back empty-handed. Her tone suggested failure might mean you're the next meal. You're a thrall, after all, barely worth the scraps they feed you. The forest is eerily quiet, save for the crunch of your steps and the occasional raven's call. You're supposed to find berries, mushrooms, or maybe a stray bird's nest, but everything looks like a trap. That bush with red berries? Probably poison. That mushroom? Smells like regret. You're no Bear Grylls, and your phone's survival app is 1,000 years away. Freya gave you a quick lesson. Eat what the pigs eat, avoid what they don't. Great advice, except there's no pig in sight, and you're not sure you trust Viking pigs anyway. Foraging was a lifeline for Vikings, especially in lean times. Archaeological digs, like those around Ribe in Denmark, show they relied on wild plants and game to stretch their harvests. You're learning fast that wild means hard won. You spot a patch of nettles and, remembering Freya's tip, wrap your hands in your tunic to pick them. They sting anyway, leaving your fingers prickling like they've been to a bad acupuncturist. You stuff the nettles in your sack, hoping they're worth the pain. Bet your local supermarket's produce aisle is looking like paradise right now. A quirky detail sticks out. Vikings used birch bark to make containers for foraged goods. You've got one, a rough square folded into a box, and it's already falling apart. You try to tighten it, but your cold-numbed fingers fumble, spilling a handful of berries. A squirrel darts by, snatching one, and you're tempted to chase it for theft. Instead, you sigh, picturing a Tupperware with a proper lid. Vikings were practical, but their tech makes you miss plastic. Your next task is checking snares set by the village hunters. You find one, a loop of sinew tangled in a bush, with a rabbit caught inside. It's dead, thankfully, but its glassy eyes make you queasy. You free it, feeling the weight of its small body. You're supposed to skin it later, and the thought makes your stomach twist. You're not a vegetarian, but there's something about doing the dirty work yourself that hits differently. Remember that walrus bone tool from the workbench? You're carrying one now, a knife handle, and it feels absurdly heavy for such a grim job. Danger lurks out here. Freya mentioned wolves, and every rustle in the trees has you jumping. Historians still debate how often Vikings clashed with wildlife, but sagas are full of tales about hunters facing bears or boars. You're no hero. You'd rather face Bjorn's insults than a wolf's teeth. You hurry, scanning the ground for tracks. A broken twig here, a faint print there, something's been through. And you're not sticking around to meet it. You find a clutch of wild leeks, their sharp scent cutting through the damp air. You yank them up, dirt clinging to their roots, and add them to your sack. It's progress, but your back aches from bending, and your hands are caked with mud. A kid from the village, trailing you for laughs, tosses a pinecone at your head. Starving yet, thrall? He jeers. You mutter about child-proof locks, earning a confused stare. Humor doesn't translate across centuries. By midday, you're starving yourself. Freya tosses you a strip of dried cod. Tastes like salty cardboard, but it's fuel. You chew, leaning against a tree, the bark rough against your sore shoulders. The forest feels less hostile now. But you're still out of your depth. Your sack's half full, and Freya might not whip you, but you're not counting on her baking you a cake either. Modern life, with its grocery delivery and meal kits, feels like a cruel dream. For now you're just a thrall, scraping by in a world that doesn't care if you make it. Part 5. You're standing in a muddy clearing just outside the Viking village. Sweat beading on your forehead despite the chill. A grizzled warrior named Torvald looms over you, his leather armor creaking as he thrusts a heavy wooden shield into your arms. It's like hugging a table, and your knees nearly buckle. You're being drilled in Viking combat training, and the axe in your other hand feels like it's plotting to betray you. Torvald's grin is all teeth, no warmth. Swing hard, thrall, or you'll be target practice, he says. You'd rather be back foraging in the forest, nettles and all, but there's no opting out. Your blisters from rowing and crafting scream with every move, and you're pretty sure this is how you die. The clearing is a chaos of grunts and clashing wood. Other trainees, mostly young Vikings, plus a few thralls like you, pair off, shields banging, axes swinging. Torvald barks orders, teaching you to block and strike. You try lifting the axe, but it's like swinging a sledgehammer. Your first attempt clips the shield and nearly takes your own toe off. Torvald laughs, a sound like a dog choking on a bone. City hands? He mocks, echoing that kid from the village. You're starting to think it's the Viking equivalent of loser. Combat was the heartbeat of Viking culture, and historical records, like the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, describe their ferocity in battle. They trained relentlessly, using wooden weapons for practice to avoid slaughtering each other. Your axe is blunt, thank Thor, but it still hurts when Torvald smacks your shield to test your stance. Your arms shake, and you stagger, mud sucking at your boots. You're not built for this. Your gym's cardio class didn't prep you for dodging a bearded maniac with a war cry. A quirky detail stands out. Vikings sometimes carved insults into their practice shields, taunts to rile opponents. Yours has a crude rune that Torvald says means coward. Charming. You'd carve, send help, if you had the strength, but you're too busy trying not to collapse. You block a blow from another thrall, a skinny guy who looks as terrified as you. The impact rattles your teeth, and you both stumble, earning Torvald's scorn. You fight like goats, he roars. Bet he'd love a modern HR complaint form. Your next drill is sparring. Torvald pairs you with a Viking teen who's all elbows and enthusiasm. He swings wildly, and you duck, shield up, feeling like a piñata at a bad party. You manage a weak counter-strike. But it's like hitting a brick wall. The kid laughs, and you're tempted to trip him, but Torvald's watching. Historians still debate whether thralls were trained for battle or just used as fodder. Right now, you feel like the latter, a punching bag for Viking egos. The training shifts to formations. You're shoved into a shield wall, shoulder to shoulder with sweating, swearing men. The idea is to hold tight, shields overlapping, but you're the weak link. A shove from the other side sends you sprawling, face first into the mud. The Vikings hoot, and you spit dirt. Muttering about inventing body armor. Remember that walrus bone knife from the forest? You're clutching one now, a backup weapon, but it's useless when you can barely lift the axe. By late morning, you're bruised and gasping. Torvald drills you on footwork, step, pivot, strike. Your legs are jelly, and you trip, earning another round of laughs. A thrall hands you a water skin, and you gulp. The water tasting of leather and hope. Survive this and you're tough, he whispers. You nod, but survival feels like a long shot. Your shield's splintering, your arms are noodles. And Torvald's eyeing you like you're a broken tool. As the sun climbs, you're allowed a breather. You collapse against a tree, shield at your side, axe abandoned. Torvald tosses you a crust of bread. Not dead yet, thrall? He says, almost impressed. You chew, tasting mud and exhaustion. Modern life, with its yoga classes and ergonomic chairs, feels like a cruel mirage. For now, you're just a thrall, dodging blows and praying for a nap. Part 6. You're standing in a grassy hollow near the Viking village, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and nervous sweat. A crowd of Vikings surrounds you, their faces a mix of curiosity and scorn. You're at the thing, their assembly for settling disputes, and you're not here as a spectator. You're on trial, accused of shirking your chores, maybe that botched axe handle or spilled water bucket. The Jarl, a broad man with a silver arm ring and eyes like flint, sits on a wooden platform. His word final. Your stomach churns. This isn't a courtroom with a lawyer and coffee breaks. One wrong move, and you're done. You'd rather be back swinging that clumsy axe in combat training. Bruises and all. The thing is a big deal, think Viking Parliament, but with more yelling and fewer ties. Historical records like Iceland's sagas describe these gatherings as the backbone of Norse law, where freemen debated and judged. As a thrall, you've got no voice, just a shaky hope that someone speaks for you. A farmer named Olaf steps forward, claiming you're lazy and cost him a day's work. You want to argue, your hands are still raw from hauling wood, but speaking out could mean a lash or worse. You stand, head down, as the crowd murmurs. The Jarl calls for witnesses. A woman, maybe Ingrid from the Longhouse, says you tried but failed miserably. It's not exactly a glowing review, but it's better than Olaf's sneer. You're handed a chance to explain, and your voice cracks as you mumble about being new to this life. The crowd chuckles, and you feel like a stand-up comic bombing on stage. The Jarl's stare is heavy, and you're pretty sure he's picturing you as shark bait. A quirky detail catches you. Vikings sometimes swore oaths on a silver ring, believing it was tied to the gods. The Jarl holds one now, its surface etched with runes, and you're asked to touch it while pleading your case. Your fingers brush the cold metal, and you half expect a lightning bolt from Thor. Instead, Olaf scoffs, saying thralls can't be trusted with oaths. You'd love to pitch him into the fjord, but you're too busy trying not to shake. The debate heats up. Olaf wants you punished, hard labor or a whipping. Ingrid suggests mercy, arguing you'll learn. Historians still debate how fair the thing was for thralls. Some sagas hint at leniency, others at brutal verdicts. You're caught in the middle, a pawn in their justice game. The Jarl raises a hand, and the crowd quiets. He's deciding your fate, and your heart pounds like a war drum. You're not sure if it's fear or the fact that you haven't eaten since dawn. Punishment options are grim. You could be tied to a post, lashed, or sent to work the worst jobs, like cleaning the latrine pit. You shudder, remembering the smell of the longhouse privy. The Jarl speaks, his voice low but sharp. You'll haul stones for a new wall, sunup to sundown, for a week. It's not a whipping, but it's no picnic either. Your back aches just thinking about it. The crowd disperses, some grumbling, others laughing. Olaf spits in the dirt, clearly hoping for blood. You're led away, wrists unbound but spirit bruised. A kid tosses a pebble at your leg, giggling. "Lazy thrall!" he calls. And you mutter about inventing detention. Remember that walrus bone knife from training? You're still carrying it, a small weight in your belt, useless against the judgment you just faced. A thrall's life is a tightrope, and you're wobbling. As evening falls, you're given a moment to rest by the fjord. The water laps at the shore, and you splash your face, the cold a small mercy. A woman from the crowd, Ingrid, you're sure now, tosses you a hunk of bread. "Work hard, thrall," she says, not unkindly. You nod, chewing the stale crust. It tastes like survival. Modern life, with its fair hearings and HR departments, feels like a cruel fantasy. For now, you're just a thrall, dodging stones and praying for a break. Part 7. You're back on a Viking longship. The familiar creak of wood and slap of waves pulling you from the village's chaos. The air is salty, sharp, and the horizon stretches like a taunt. You're not just rowing this time, you're part of a raid, and the thought makes your stomach knot tighter than the ropes you're clutching. The ship's packed with warriors, their shields lined along the sides, axes glinting in the dawn light. You're a thrall, So your job is rowing, not fighting, but that small comfort when you're sailing toward chaos. The Viking leading this, a scarred man named Ragnar, barks orders, his voice cutting through the wind. You'd rather be hauling stones after that thing verdict, but here you are, oars in hand, praying you don't capsize. The longship slices through the sea, its dragon-headed prow snarling at the waves. You row in rhythm with the others, your blistered hands screaming, shoulders burning like they're on fire. The Vikings chant a low, eerie song to keep time, and you try to match their pace, but every stroke feels like lifting a car. Your tunic's soaked with spray, and the cold sinks into your bones. Ragnar promised loot, silver, furs, maybe glory, but as a thrall, you'll be lucky to get a pat on the head. Bet your Netflix queue is looking like a warm hug right now. Raids were the Vikings' calling card, and historical accounts, like those in the Frankish annals, detailed their hit-and-run attacks on monasteries and villages. They struck fast, often targeting undefended spots for maximum gain. You're headed for a coastal settlement, maybe in Anglo-Saxon lands, though no one's shared the itinerary with you. The plan's simple: row in, raid, row out. You're just muscle, not strategy. But the tension's thick. Every creak of the ship feels like a countdown to trouble. A quirky detail catches you. The Vikings paint their shields with bright colors, not just for show but to signal clans. Yours is plain wood, marking you as a thrall, but the warrior next to you has a red spiral that's oddly hypnotic. You'd doodle one yourself, but you're too busy rowing. The guy grunts, "Keep up, or we feed you to the sea." You force a nod, muttering about inventing labor unions. He doesn't get the joke, but his axe looks like it's itching for a punchline. Hours pass, and your arms are numb, the oar an extension of your misery. Land appears, a low smear of green and smoke. Ragnar signals, and the chanting stops. You're told to beach the ship, which means leaping into knee-deep water, freezing and slick with seaweed. You haul the longship ashore, slipping on rocks, while the warriors grab weapons. You're handed a sack to carry loot, and the weight of it feels like a bad omen. Historians still debate whether thralls joined raids willingly or were coerced. Right now, willing feels like a sick joke. The village comes into view: huts, a church, people scattering like startled birds. The Vikings charge, shouting, and you're swept along, heart pounding. You're not fighting, but you're dodging chaos, screams, smoke, the clash of metal. You stumble over a broken cart, the sack banging against your hip. A warrior shoves you toward a hut, yelling to grab anything shiny. You fumble inside, finding a bronze cup and a wool cloak. It feels wrong, but hesitating could mean a blade in your back. By midday, the raid's winding down. You're back at the ship, sack heavier, legs like jelly. The Vikings are flushed with victory, but you're just glad to be alive. A kid runs by, tossing a pebble that clips your ear. "Slow thrall!" he yells, and you groan, dreaming of child-proof gates. Remember that walrus bone knife from the forest? It's still at your belt, untouched but a grim reminder of this life. Ragnar claps your shoulder, tossing you a scrap of bread. "Not useless, thrall," he says, which is practically a love letter. You chew, tasting salt and exhaustion, as the ship shoves off. The raided village fades, and you're rowing again, the sea indifferent to your aches. Modern life, with its laws and grocery stores, feels like a cruel dream. For now you're a thrall, caught in the tide of Viking ambition. Part 8. You're trudging through the smoldering remnants of the raided village, the air heavy with ash and the sharp tang of burnt wood. The longship waits at the shore, but you're not rowing yet. You're scavenging, picking through the wreckage under the watchful eyes of Ragnar and his crew. Your sack, already stuffed with a bronze cup and a cloak from the raid, drags at your shoulder. Every step kicks up dust, and your throat burns from the smoke. You're a thrall, so your job is to gather anything the Vikings missed: spilled grain, stray tools, maybe a forgotten trinket. The chaos of the raid lingers, and you're caught between exhaustion and the gnawing guilt of rifling through someone's shattered life. You'd rather be back carving that awful axe handle, splinters and all. The village is a ghost of itself. Huts are charred shells, their thatched roofs collapse like broken ribs. A child's wooden toy lies in the dirt, and you look away, your chest tight. The Vikings are laughing, sorting their loot, silver crosses, furs, even a squealing pig. You're told to check a half-burnt barn, and you step inside, the floor creaking under your weight. You find a sack of barley, scorched but salvageable, and haul it out, coughing as dust swirls. Ragnar nods, but his praise is a grunt. Keep moving, thrall. You'd trade this for a desk job in a heartbeat. Raids weren't just about loot, they reshaped societies. The Viking attacks on places like Lindisfarne in 793, recorded in Anglo-Saxon chronicles, spread fear and shifted trade routes. This village wasn't a monastery, but it's no less broken. You're scavenging to ensure the Vikings' survival, but it feels like kicking someone already down. You spot a cracked pottery jug, its handle carved with a simple flower. You tuck it in your sack, wondering who shaped it. Probably someone who'd hate you right now. A quirky detail catches your eye. Vikings sometimes mark their loot with chalk or notches to claim it. You see a warrior scratching a rune on a stolen candlestick, like tagging it for Viking eBay. You're tempted to mark your barley sack, but thralls don't get dibs. Instead, you trip over a broken plow, earning a laugh from a nearby Viking. Clumsy as a drunk ox, he says. You mutter about inventing bubble wrap, but he just spits and walks off. Humor's a tough sell here. Your next task is dragging a pile of salvaged timber to the ship. The wood's heavy, splintered, and smells of char. Your arms ache, still sore from rowing, and a nail scrapes your palm, drawing blood. You wince, wiping it on your tunic, which is basically a crime scene of stains by now. Historians still debate whether thralls felt loyalty during raids or just fear. You're leaning toward fear, with a side of, "Why me?" Every glance from Ragnar feels like a test. And failing means more than a bad performance review. The moral weight hits harder as you work. You find a wool blanket, singed but soft, and hesitate. It's useful, but it was someone's warmth. Maybe a kid's. You stuff it in the sack, hating yourself a little. A Viking kid trailing the crew pelts you with a clod of dirt. "Hurry, thrall!" he yells, and you groan, dreaming of timeout corners. Remember that walrus bone knife from the raid? It's still at your belt, a small anchor in this mess, though you'd rather have a granola bar. By afternoon, the scavenging's done. You're back at the ship, sack bulging, body screaming. The Vikings load their haul, joking about the next raid. You're handed a strip of dried fish. Tastes like salty regret, but you chew anyway. The village fades as you shove off, the shore a scar of smoke and ruin. You're rowing again, the oar biting your blisters. Modern life, with its ethics boards and grocery delivery, feels like a fairy tale. For now, you're a thrall, carrying the weight of a raid you didn't choose. Part 9. You're crouched by a smoky fire in the Viking village, the scent of charred wood and sour barley clinging to your clothes. The longship's back, the raid's loot sorted. And now you're tasked with cooking a feast to celebrate. Your hands, still raw from scavenging, fumble with a heavy iron pot that's seen better days. The head cook, a stout woman named Gudrun with a voice like a foghorn, shoves a basket of ingredients at you: turnips, a slab of pork, and something that might be seaweed or regret. You're a thrall, so no one expects culinary magic, but mess this up, and you'll be the village punchline. You'd rather be back dodging pebbles from that annoying kid than stirring this gritty stew. The fire spits embers, and you squint through the haze, trying to chop turnips with a blunt knife. The blade slips, nearly taking a finger, and Gudrun snaps. "Cut food, not yourself, thrall!" You nod, muttering about electric choppers. The pork's tough, streaked with fat, and smells like it's been aging since Odin was young. You hack at it, your arms aching from days of rowing and hauling. The seaweed, or whatever it is, goes in next, and the pot starts to smell like a titterpool's bad day. You're no chef, and this is no MasterChef kitchen. Viking feasts were social glue, binding communities after raids or harvests. Archaeological finds, like those at Lijdre in Denmark, show they ate hearty pork, barley, and wild herbs. Washed down with mead. You're aiming for edible, but the stew's looking like a science experiment. You stir, the wooden spoon rough against your blisters, and add a handful of dried dill Gudrun thrusts at you. It's supposed to help, but now the pot smells like pickles with an identity crisis. Bet your microwave dinners are whispering sweet nothings to you right now. A quirky detail catches you. Vikings sometimes flavored food with fermented fish sauce, their version of Roman garum. Gudrun dribbles some into the pot, and the stench hits like a punch. You gag, and she laughs, a sound like a walrus barking. Weak stomach, thrall? She says. You force a smile, picturing a bottle of ketchup with religious devotion. The sauce might have been a delicacy, but to you, it's liquid punishment. Your next job is kneading dough for flatbread. The barley flour's coarse, sticking to your hands like glue. You pound it, sweat dripping, while Gudrun barks about keeping the fire steady. A spark lands on your arm, and you yelp, earning a snicker from a nearby Viking. Burnt thrall, tasty thrall, he jokes. You mutter about fire codes, but he's already back to sharpening his axe. Historians still debate whether thralls cooked for feasts or just cleaned up. You're doing both, and it's a double shift from hell. The feast starts taking shape. You haul the pot to a long table where Vikings are gathering, their voices loud with me-fueled boasts. You ladle stew, dodging elbows and trying not to spill. The pork's chewy, the turnips mushy. But no one's spitting it out, yet. You're handed a tray of flatbread, still warm, and it smells better than anything you've eaten in days. You sneak a piece, and it's gritty but glorious. A kid darts by, tossing a barley husk at your head. Slow cook, thrall! He yells. You groan, dreaming of child safety locks. By evening, the feast is in full swing. You're clearing bowls. You're back screaming, when Gudrun tosses you a scrap of pork. Not poison, thrall, she says, almost kind. You chew, tasting salt and survival. The fire's glow paints the longhouse in flickering gold. And for a moment, you're part of this world, not just its grunt. Remember that walrus bone spoon from the longhouse? You're using one now, scraping the pot, and it feels oddly grounding. The night deepens, and you're sent to bank the fire. You collapse by the hearth, ash dusting your face, the pot still simmering like your exhaustion. Modern life, with its takeout apps and dishwashers, feels like a cruel mirage. For now, you're a thrall, stirring stew and clinging to the small win of not burning the village down. Part 10. You're huddled in the longhouse, the wind howling outside like a pack of wolves clawing at the walls. Winter has sunk its teeth into the Viking village, and the cold is a living thing, seeping through the turf roof and creeping into your bones. You're wrapped in a thin wool blanket, your breath clouding in the dim light of a flickering oil lamp. As a thrall, your job is keeping the fire alive and the shelter intact, but the frost is winning. Your fingers, still sore from cooking that grim stew, are numb as you stack firewood. You'd rather be back stirring Gudrun's pickled nightmare than facing this icy hell. The Vikings around you seem unbothered, snoring under furs like it's a cozy Airbnb. The longhouse is a fortress against the cold, but it's no penthouse. Snow dusts the floor through cracks, and the air smells of smoke, sweat, and damp wool. You're tasked with patching leaks in the roof. Climbing up means slathering mud and straw over gaps, your hands freezing to the trowel. The mud's half ice, and you slip, nearly tumbling into the fire pit. A Viking grunts, "Clumsy thrall," and you mutter about inventing insulation. Your tunic stiff with frost, and every breath stabs your lungs. Modern heaters are a cruel daydream now. Winter was a brutal test for Vikings, and archaeological sites like those in Longship meadows show they built sturdy shelters to survive. You're learning why. Without fire and food, you're just a popsicle with a pulse. Your next job is rationing supplies. The barley sacks from the raid are dwindling, and you measure handfuls into a pot. Your stomach growling. Gudrun watches, her eyes sharp. Spill 1 grain, thrall, and you're eating snow, she says. You nod, picturing a grocery store with heated aisles and canned soup. A quirky detail stands out. Vikings use frozen urine to sharpen tools. Yep, they'd rub it on whetstones for grip. You see a warrior doing it now, and the smell makes you gag. You'd rather stick to plain rocks, but you're not calling the shots. The guy chuckles at your green face. Soft stomach, thrall? He says. You force a smile. Dreaming of stainless steel knives and a shower. That walrus bone spoon from the feast? You're clutching it now, stirring a watery porridge that's more hope than flavor. Your day grinds on with checking the livestock. The goats are crammed in a lean-to, their breath steaming. You shovel frozen dung, your boots slipping on ice, and a goat butts your knee for fun. Historians still debate how Vikings managed livestock in winter. Some say they slaughtered most to save feed, others argue they kept small herds. You're just praying these goats don't eat your fingers. One stares at you, chewing straw, and you swear it's plotting revenge. The cold saps your strength. You're sent to fetch water. But the stream's frozen, so you hack at it with an axe, chips flying. Your arms shake, and a kid tosses a snowball at your back. Freeze faster, thrall! He yells. You groan. Picturing child-proof snow forts. The water's slushy, and hauling it back feels like dragging a boulder. Your blanket's no match for the wind, and you're starting to forget what warmth feels like. By dusk, you're back in the longhouse, feeding the fire. The logs crackle, and you huddle close, your face stinging as it thaws. Gudrun tosses you a scrap of dried fish. Tastes like salted cardboard. But it's life. The Vikings swap stories, their voices a low hum, and for a moment, the cold feels less cruel. You're still a thrall, but the fire's glow is a small mercy. Modern life, with its thermostats and hot cocoa, feels like a fairy tale. For now, you're just surviving, one shivering breath at a time. Part 11. You're weaving through a bustling Viking market. The air alive with the clamor of haggling and the tang of smoked fish. The village has swelled with traders, their stalls spilling over with furs, amber beads, and iron tools. Your boots sink into the muddy paths, and you're clutching a sack of barley as a thrall, sent to barter for supplies under the sharp eye of a merchant named Eric. He's all smiles and sly glances. His fingers twitching like they're counting coins in his sleep. You're out of your depth, a fish in a shark tank. And you'd rather be back shivering in that frozen longhouse than navigating this chaos. One bad deal, and Eric's likely to trade you for a goat. The market is a riot of color and noise. Wool cloaks dyed red, shouts in tongues you barely grasp, and the occasional bleat of livestock. You're told to trade the barley for wax candles and a bundle of flax. Easy, right? Except every trader's got a hustle. A woman with a braided crown offers candles, but her price is half your sack. You stammer, trying to haggle, and she laughs, flashing a gap-toothed grin. City tongue, thrall, she says. You mutter about price tags and grocery apps, earning a confused stare. Your haggling game's weaker than your rowing rhythm. Markets were Viking lifelines, and sites like Hedeby in Denmark show they were hubs for goods from as far as Byzantium. You're holding grain raided from that charred village, and its currency here. You finally swap some for candles, their beeswax sent a rare whiff of luxury. The flax comes harder, Eric wants a deal. But the seller, a wiry man with a scar, drives a hard bargain. You lose more barley than planned, and Eric's scowl says you'll hear about it later. Bet your online shopping cart's looking like a warm hug now. A quirky detail catches you. Vikings used hack silver, chopped bits of jewelry, as cash. You see a trader weigh a twisted silver arm ring, slicing it with a knife like it's deli meat. You're tempted to ask if they take Venmo, but the glint of his blade shuts you up. Instead, you trip over a crate of apples, spilling a few. A kid scoops one and pelts it at your leg. Dumb thrall! He yells. You groan, picturing child safety apps. That walrus bone knife from the raid? It's at your belt. Useless against the market's sharp tongues. Your next task is hauling purchases to Eric's cart. The flax bundle's heavy, scratching your arms, and the candles keep slipping. A trader tries to palm off a cracked pot, sweet-talking you into a bad swap. You dodge it barely, but Eric's not impressed. Soft head thrall, he mutters. Historians still debate whether thralls handled trade or just carried the bags. You're definitely the bag guy, and it's a full-body workout. Every step's a dodge: spilled ale, stray dogs, and a merchant waving a fish in your face. The market's a maze of temptation. You pass a stall with honey cakes, their sweetness cutting through the fishy air. Your stomach growls. But thralls don't get snacks. You're handed a strip of dried cod instead. Tastes like salty regret, but you chew, dodging a cartwheel that nearly clips your toes. The crowd's a pressure cooker. And you're the weakest link, watched by traders who smell your inexperience. A woman tosses you a broken candle stub. Light your way, thrall, she says, half kind. You pocket it. A small win in the shark pit. By afternoon, you're done. You collapse by Eric's cart, mud caking your boots, sack lighter but spirit bruised. He counts the goods, grumbling about your deals. The market hums on, a beast that doesn't care you're spent. Modern life, with its price scanners and loyalty points, feels like a cruel dream. For now you're a thrall, bartering for survival and praying Eric doesn't dock your next meal. Part 12. You're standing in a shadowed grove just beyond the Viking village, the air heavy with pine and the faint burn of herbs. Torches flicker, casting eerie shapes on the trees, and a low chant hums from the gathered Vikings. You're caught up in one of their rituals, a thrall dragged along to help with offerings to the gods. The priestess, Astrid, her face painted with ash, clutches a carved wooden idol and mutters words that prickle your skin. You're holding a basket of bread and dried fish, your hands shaky. Unsure if you're part of the ceremony or just the cleanup crew. You'd rather be back fumbling in that chaotic market than balancing Viking superstitions with your own creeping dread. The grove feels alive, every rustle a whisper from something unseen. Astrid sprinkles mead on the ground, invoking Freya for luck and Thor for strength. You're told to place the offerings at the base of a gnarled oak, its branches heavy with tied rags, prayers, maybe, or warnings. You step forward, the basket's weight grounding you. But your foot snaps a twig, and the crowd's eyes snap to you. Astrid's glare could curdle milk. Quiet, thrall, she hisses. You nod, muttering about noise-canceling headphones, and set the food down, half expecting the tree to grab you. Viking religion was woven into daily life, and archaeological finds, like ritual sites at Uppsala, show they honored gods with offerings and sacrifices. This isn't a blood-soaked altar, thankfully, but the tension's thick. You're handed a horn of mead to pass around, its sour tang stinging your nose. You sip when it comes back, just to blend in. And it burns like cheap whiskey. The Vikings watch the sky, reading omens in the clouds. You see a raven circle, and Astrid nods, pleased. You're just hoping it's not eyeing you for dessert. A quirky detail stands out. Vikings tied knots in string to bind bad luck, believing it trapped evil spirits. Astrid hands you a cord, and you fumble, tying a knot that looks like a toddler's shoelace. She snorts. Gods won't trust that, thrall. You force a smile, picturing a lucky rabbit's foot keychain. That walrus bone knife from the market? It's at your belt, a small anchor, though you're not sure it'd help against a grumpy deity. Your next task is scattering herbs around the grove's edge, a ward against misfortune. The leaves smell sharp, like mint gone rogue, and stick to your fingers. A Viking mutters about elves, hidden folk who curse the careless. You're not buying it, but every shadow makes you jump. Historians still debate whether Vikings truly believed in these spirits, or used them for social control. Right now, you're hedging your bets, tossing herbs like it's your job. A kid darts by. tossing a pebble that clips your shin. Scared thrall! He giggles. You groan, dreaming of child-proof rituals. The ceremony peaks as Astrid raises the idol, chanting louder. You're told to kneel. And you do, the cold earth soaking your knees. The Vikings sway, lost in the moment, and you're caught between awe and unease. Is this faith or fear? You're not sure, but you mimic their murmurs. Just in case Thor's listening. The mead's gone to your head, and the torchlight blurs. You're a thrall, not a believer. Whip up a storm, and you're starting to feel like one too. By midnight, the ritual winds down. Astrid scatters ashes, dismissing the spirits, and the crowd disperses. You're left to douse the torches, the embers hissing as you pour water. A woman tosses you a crust of ritual bread. Tastes like sawdust, but you chew, grateful. The grove feels quieter, the air lighter. Modern life, with its apps for mindfulness and scented candles, feels like a distant star. For now you're a thrall, tangled in Viking beliefs, praying your knots hold. Part 13. You're knee-deep in freezing water, the fjord's current tugging at your legs like an impatient child. The Viking longship looms on the shore. Its hull battered from a storm that hit during the night, splintering planks and snapping ropes. You're a thrall, tasked with helping repair it. And the work feels like a punishment for sins you didn't commit. The air smells of wet wood and pitch, and your hands still tingling from last night's ritual herbs. Grip a mallet that's heavier than your will to live. Bjorn, the bearded craftsman from the workbench days, barks orders, his voice sharp over the wind. You'd rather be back in that eerie grove. Dodging Astrid's glares, then hammering this floating coffin back together. The ship's a mess, cracks spiderweb the hull, and the mast leans like a drunk. You're hammering pegs into fresh planks. Your arms screaming with every swing. The wood's stubborn, and your mallet slips, bruising your thumb. Bjorn grunts. Hit like you mean it, thrall. You mutter about power tools, earning a scowl. The Vikings work fast, smearing hot pitch to seal gaps, its tarry stink burning your nose. You're handed a rag to spread it, and the heat blisters your fingers. Modern shipyards, with their cranes and coffee breaks, feel like a cruel fantasy. Shipbuilding was a Viking art, and wrecks like the Oseberg ship show their mastery, light, strong, built to dance with the sea. This repair's no masterpiece, just a race against the next voyage. You're hauling ropes next, your shoulders aching as you drag them to the mast. The knots are tricky, and you fumble. The coarse hemp scraping your palms. A warrior laughs. Tie like that, thrall, and we'll all drown. You force a grin, picturing a YouTube knot tutorial. Time's not on your side, the tide's rising. And the ship needs to float by dusk. A quirky detail catches you. Vikings carved protective runes into their ship's prows, believing they warded off storms. You spot one, a jagged line like lightning, near the dragon head. You're tempted to scratch your own, maybe. Save me. But Bjorn's watching. That walrus bone mallet from the workbench? You're using it now, and its weight feels personal, like it's mocking your exhaustion. You hammer another peg, the thud echoing in your bones, and wonder if the gods care about your calluses. Your next job is sanding planks with a rough stone, a task so tedious you'd rather negotiate with Eric's market sharks. The wood's damp, splintering under your strokes, and a sliver lodges in your finger. You wince, picking it out, while a kid tosses a pebble that pings your boot. Slow, thrall! He yells, and you groan, dreaming of child-proof shipyards. Historians still debate whether thralls work skilled tasks like ship repair or just hauled materials. You're doing both, and it's a double shift from hell. Your back's a knot, and the fjord's chill numbs your toes. The day grinds on, and you're sent to fetch more pitch. The pot's heavy, sloshing as you stumble over rocks. A wave splashes your tunic, and you're soaked, shivering like a wet dog. The Vikings don't blink, they're used to this, their hands steady as they lash the mast upright. You're the weak link, and every glare from Bjorn feels like a verdict. You spread more pitch, the rag sticking to your skin, and pray the ship holds. If it sinks, You're not betting on a lifeboat. By late afternoon, the repairs are nearly done. You're tightening ropes. Your fingers raw when Bjorn claps your shoulder. Not useless, thrall, he says, tossing you a scrap of bread. It's stale, but you chew, tasting salt and survival. The ship's upright, creaking but seaworthy, its runes glowing in the fading light. You collapse on the shore, the fjord lapping at your boots. Modern life, with its dry docks and labor laws, feels like a distant star. For now you're a thrall, patching a ship and clinging to the hope it doesn't drag you under. Part 14. You're in the heart of the Viking village, the air thick with wood smoke and the tang of sweat. A crowd has gathered in a dirt-packed clearing, their murmurs buzzing like bees. You're a thrall, standing face to face with a Viking rival named Harold, a wiry man with a scar snaking down his cheek. He's challenged you, some petty grudge over a spilled bucket or a fumbled rope during the ship repair. Now you're in a contest of strength and wits, a public spectacle to settle the score. Your hands, still raw from hammering pegs, tremble as you grip a wooden staff. You'd rather be back wrestling that pitch pot than staring down Harold's smirk. One wrong move, and you're the village joke, or worse. The challenge isn't a duel to the death, thank Thor, but it's no game either. You're to wrestle, throw stones, and answer riddles, proving you're not the useless thrall Harold claims. The Jarl watches from a bench, his silver arm ring glinting, and the crowd's eyes bore into you. Harold cracks his knuckles, grinning like a wolf. Ready to eat dirt, thrall? He taunts. You mutter about conflict resolution seminars, but the staff in your hands feels like your only ally. Your heart's pounding, and the clearing smells of dust and anticipation. These contests were Viking social theater, and sagas like Egil's saga describe them as tests of honor or ways to settle disputes without blood. You're not fighting for glory, just survival. The wrestling comes first. Harold charges, and you dodge barely, your feet slipping in the dirt. He grabs your arm, twisting, and you hit the ground, breath knocked out. The crowd roars, and you scramble up, shoving back. You're no wrestler, but desperation's a decent coach. You manage to pin him for a moment, earning a grudging nod. Bet your gym's yoga class didn't prep you for this. A quirky detail catches you. Vikings sometimes braided their hair before contests, believing it brought luck. Harold's got a tight braid, but your hair's a sweaty mess, no talisman here. You'd braid it if you had time, but you're too busy dodging his next move. The stone throwing's next. You have to rock, your arms screaming, and toss it, farther than Harold's, by some miracle. The crowd murmurs, and he glares. Luck, not skill. He spits. You mutter about inventing scoreboards, earning a kid's giggle from the sidelines. The riddle round is your last shot. Harold goes first, his voice smug. I fly without wings, I'm gone in a blink, what am I? You fumble, then guess. A dream. And the Jarl nods. Your turn. I'm full when I'm empty. I'm light when I'm heavy, what am I? Harold stumbles, guessing. A ship. Wrong, it's a bellows. The crowd cheers, and you're stunned. Historians still debate whether thralls could gain respect through such contests. You're just glad to be standing. Harold's not done. He demands a final wrestle. You're exhausted. But you grip the staff, circling. He lunges, and you sidestep, using his momentum to trip him. He hits the dirt, and the crowd erupts. The Jarl raises a hand, calling it your win. Harold storms off, muttering curses. A kid tosses a pebble at your foot, grinning. Not bad, thrall, he says. You groan, picturing child-proof arenas. That walrus bone knife from the ship? It's at your belt. Untouched but a quiet anchor in this madness. By dusk you're free to rest. You collapse by a fire, the village humming around you. The Jarl tosses you a hunk of bread, stale. But it tastes like victory. Tougher than you look, thrall, he says. You chew, your bruises throbbing, the crowd's cheers still echoing. Modern life, with its mediators and coffee breaks, feels like a distant dream. For now you're a thrall, battered but unbroken, savoring a wind you didn't expect. Part 15. You're crouched in the shadows of the Viking village, the night air sharp with pine and the distant tang of the fjord. The longhouse looms behind you, its firelight spilling through cracks. But you're not warming by the hearth. You're plotting escape, your heart hammering like a war drum. The weight of being a thrall, rowing, scavenging, wrestling Harold, has crushed any hope of enduring this life. Your hands, scarred from ship repairs and kitchen fires, clutch a stolen sack with a crust of bread and a cracked waterskin. The village sleeps, but one wrong step could wake a warrior or a dog. You'd rather face Ragnar's raid again than stay another day, chained to this brutal world. The plan's shaky, slip to the fjord. Steal a small boat, and row for anywhere else. You've overheard tales of thralls fleeing to distant lands, though most drown or get dragged back. Freedom's a whisper, but it's louder than the whip. You creep past the longhouse, boots soft on the frost-crusted ground. A dog stirs, and you freeze, breath caught, until it settles. The fjord glints under the moon, a silver path to nowhere. You're no navigator, your GPS is 1,000 years away, but desperation's a decent compass. Escape was rare but not impossible for thralls. And sagas like the Laxdala saga hint at some who slipped away, blending into new lands. You're banking on that, though the odds feel like betting against a storm. You reach the shore, where a skiff bobs, its oars tangled in seaweed. You untie it, hands shaking, the rope rough as your nerves. The boat's small, barely fit for a fjord, let alone open sea. You climb in, the wood creaking, and push off, the splash loud as a shout. Your heart lurches. Did someone hear? A quirky detail sticks. Vikings marked boats with carved stones to claim them, like medieval VIN numbers. This skiff's unmarked, probably a spare, but you're not complaining. You row, arms burning, the oars heavier than your fear. The fjord's calm, but the cold bites your face. And you're soaked from a rogue wave. That walrus bone knife from Harold's challenge? It's at your belt, a grim comfort, though it's useless against the sea. You mutter about life jackets, picturing a coast guard that doesn't exist. The village fades, a smudge of smoke and shadow. You're free, but not safe. The sea's vast, and you're no Viking, raised on waves. Historians still debate how many thralls escaped versus how many died trying. You're living that question now. A raven circles above, its call like Astrid's chants. And you wonder if the gods are watching, or laughing. Your bread's soggy, the waterskin half empty, but you row, each stroke a defiance. A kid's taunt echoes in your mind. Slow thrall! And you grin, spite fueling your arms. Dawn creeps up, painting the sky in pinks and grays. You're exhausted, the skiff drifting, but lands a faint line ahead. Maybe it's friendly, maybe not. You're a thrall no more, but survival's still a coin toss. The sea rocks you, a lullaby and a threat, and you lean back, eyes heavy. Modern life, with its maps and rescue apps, feels like a cruel dream. For now you're just you, rowing toward a horizon that might not want you. The boat sways gently now, the fjord's ripples softening as the first light warms your face. You're adrift. Not just on water but in a strange calm, the weight of the Viking world lifting like fog. The oars rest in your lap, your hands still, the blisters no longer screaming. The horizon glows. A promise or a trick, but it's yours to chase. You breathe deep, the salt and pine fading into something quieter, like a memory blurring at the edges. There's no longhouse, no jarl. No Harold's sneer, just you and the sea, whispering secrets it won't repeat. Let the waves carry you now, wherever they lead. The stars are dimming, the night's slipping away. And your eyelids grow heavy. You're safe here, in this moment, the boat a cradle rocked by time. Drift, just drift, and let the Viking world dissolve. Sleep's calling, soft as a tide. And you're ready to answer.